Okay, I'm going to show you how to set up Visual Studio Code for Python. Lets you develop inside of the terminal. Really nice. You can run code there. We'll set up virtual environments so you won't cloud your system, like clutter your system with a ton of packages and installs. And then we're going to also show you how to install virtual environments of different versions of Python. That's a lot of stuff to get through, but go by pretty quickly. So first of all, we want to search for Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code, can't spell. And you're just going to go here, and you're just going to go click on the download. Get to this page. My VM can handle it. You're going to click on the version of Windows. Okay, download that and install it. It'll show up in your downloads folder. Click and run that. Run all the default settings through the install, except for one thing I like to do is I like to add Visual Studio Code to open up in folders and in directories. Right click and click download. There's a setting for that. Just click both of those. You're good to go. Next, you want to install Python. The version of Python you want to use. Why did it do Bing? Why? I changed it to Google. Bing search comes up. Thank you, even though I changed it. Okay, you're going to go and download the latest version. Click on that, download the latest version of Python. Boom, easy. Now, if you want to download Python 2.7, just Google that. 2.7 download. The latest version of Python 2.7 is 2.7.18. That's the one I suggest you download. Okay. And you're going to download just this one. 64-bit. Once you've downloaded all of those, run each of them. Okay. Python 3, you want to add that to your path. Okay, there'll be a little box that says check to add Python whatever to path. Click that. For Python 2.7, do not do that. You don't want the latest version of Python on your path. What it means when something is on your path, it means that when you're running command prompt, we go here and we type cmd. Come on. Then we're running this. Make that a little better. See. 24. Something fell over my house. It's a ghost. Okay, because I'm using command prompt instead of PowerShell. What you're going to do is when you add it to your path, it means that when you run Python in command prompt, it's going to run it here. Okay. See, this is where I installed it. It's going to run it if you add it to path. If you do not add it to path, it's not going to know what's going on. Okay. That just gives you extra functionality, and we're going to use that in Visual Studio Code. All right. Once you've installed those three things, then we're good to go. We're good to check out the Visual Studio Code style. Visual Studio Code, we're just going to open it. Actually, since we added it to folder, let's just close both of these. We don't need it right now. We're going to have our coding project or whatever open here. So coding project, go into our little coding project. You right click here and you add it open with code onto your folder name stuff. I forget what the setting's called. Then you can right click there and open with code. Yes, I trust the authors. The authors are me. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a virtual environment. But first, let's make a test file. Test.py. We want our test to print. Hello, buddy. Once we'll do hello world, cliche. We are beyond that. You're gonna get that practice elsewhere. All right, so we're gonna print hello buddy. But what we have to do is we have to download first the Python extension. Okay, so you're gonna search here and you're gonna type Python. Boom, click on that, most installed, and then it will install the extension. Wait a sec, and it will be done. I already installed that. Now, we've done that. We can select our Python interpreter. To select an interpreter, you push Control, Shift, and P. Just open up this bad boy, and you can search like anything you want here. Python, and then Python select interpreter. All right. So by default, the one it's going to be choosing is the one from your Python path. That one's just going to be the one. You want to select your Python path to be the default terminal. Right? Now we're going to run this code, and it's opening up here. I changed it. By default, it does PowerShell. What you want to do is you want to click Select Default Profile, and you want to click on Command Prompt for this. Okay, PowerShell works for a lot of things, but I was just having issues where PowerShell is like better than Command Prompt in almost every way, except for it has more security to it. So I was just running into some issues with that. So just do Command Prompt. I'm sure there's a way you can figure it out, but that's the one we do by default. Okay, and now it's running it in this section by default. Problem with that is if we want to install new modules and things like that onto Python for a project that we're working on, then we're going to run into some issues. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to install a virtual environment, Python. So what we do first is we're going to install a module called virtual env. And I know that Python 3 automatically has built in to itself a module called env. And env lets you create a virtual project, of Python, whatever version of Python you're already running. So if we did that, we get another version of Python 3.10.10, which you might want for most of your projects, because most projects or new projects or whatever are going to be running in 3.10 or updated one. But if you're working with older projects, then I suggest you do pip install virtual env. And that is a new module. I think we already have it installed. Yep. But when you click that, it's going to install it. Clear screen again. Okay. Now, what we can do with that virtual env, we can install version Python. Okay. So the first virtual environment, we're just going to use regular venv. Python v-m venv. I'm not sure what the -m is for, but just there. venv, and we're going to name this Py10. That's what I'm going to name my virtual environment. A lot of people will name their virtual environments, with the V. They just name it venv again. So first command is calling Python. Second is, I don't know. Third, it's establishing it's calling virtual environment, and then we're going to name the virtual environment. That's the last one. So I'm going to name my virtual environment Py310, because that's what I want to do. Pyv. And boom, instantly we see Py310 shows up right here. Okay, and this guy's like, oh wow, we noticed that you created Python 3.10. You want to select that as a default workspace folder. But we'll get there. We'll get there. So let's do another one. Okay. We're going to install the other one. So for Python 2, instead of using the venv module, we're going to do the virtual env. We're going to specify, this is one word, virtual env. We're going to specify the path of the Python version that we want to install. And when you install Python 2.7, if you install it for all users, the default location of that is going to be right here on the C drive. So we can open up this folder and click up here on the side, and it will let you highlight the whole thing. If you click right there, copy, paste, backslash, this / I don't know, python.exe, because that's where Python 2 is going to be. Then after that, you're going to name your Python 2 virtual environment. I'm going to name mine Py2.7. Dun, dun, dun. We have both virtual environments. Both of them are here. And this is asking us which one we want to use. Okay. So what we're going to do is we can select our default Python path by doing Control, Shift, and P. And click Select Default Interpreter. Now, click on Window so I can see my own face on the side. Of course. Now, you can choose what default interpreter you want to use. This is what you're going to do whenever you want to switch running different versions of Python. So let's say that we want to run, normally, if you see right here, this says VENV. This is a virtual environment. This 2.7 is a virtual environment, and this is the name of them. Okay, this is the regular Python path. We don't want to use that one. We don't want to clutter our main Python install with a bunch of modules that we need. Now we can click on Python 3.10. Boom. We should be good to go. Now we should be running Python 3.10. Let's run this here and see. Yep, if you see this little parentheses right here, it tells us what virtual environment we're running in. Running in Python 3. Now let's say that we want to run Python 2 code, which I think this is how print statements were handled in Python 2. Let's run this code. And in Python 3, it's getting kind of like, oh, you're missing your parentheses. No. We grab those. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the Control and the Shift and P again. Okay. And we're going to open up and we're going to select our interpreter again. Type that in there. And we're going to select Python 2 as our virtual environment. Now, what you do, crash this one, and when you open a new one, it'll automatically load the other Python virtual environment, Python 2.7. Look, this script did run because according to Python 2 syntax, this is all right. That lets you run Python 2. Your linter and stuff in this is still using Python 3.10. So it still thinks that there's a problem, even though this is Python 2 code, because it's still running off of Python 3. That's one annoying part about doing it this way in Visual Studio Code, but I find it like a pretty easy workaround since most of the time I'm working in Python 3.10 anyway. Then when we go to switch our interpreter, we're going to Python 3.10, our virtual environment, and we can install like whatever module. One of the modules we want to install is import LRD. Then when we're working on Python 3.10, it doesn't know, has no idea. It's like, what the heck are you doing? What is this module? I don't know that. Then you can use pip install XLRD. Bada bing, bada boom. It appears to have recognized XLRD. All things are working. So that's how I manage my multiple versions of Python environments. Another thing that I like to do is to install or a Python code buddy. So I'll just, what I do is if I'm using a new version of this, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy and paste my settings, my previous settings into my new version of Visual Studio Code. What I suggest you do, me, the only one who's probably watching this, is you're going to go down here to settings, manage settings, and here, all right, and here are some defaults, default interpreter and all of that. What you want to do is you want to insert your new settings. This. And it's going to be upset because some of them are copied, are duplicated. The ones that are underlined below that are duplicated, just delete those. And you can just go through and do whatever setting there. wants a comma after. And whatever extensions you have listed down there, you can just install here. vscode install. And the other thing you want to copy over, I'll put these down in the descriptions. I'm going to go to my other Visual Studio Code. I'm going to go to keyboard shortcuts. I'm going to click on this little thing in the corner, the JSON, and it will let me load my shortcuts. Copy them. All right, let's save it. All of my sizes for things on this because I already have. But on this, you're going to go to keyboard shortcuts again. Stop these here. And that's because I like to use shift+enter as a keyboard shortcut instead of running a single line of code in Python. It runs, makes it so that I don't have to grab the mouse and go corner like that. Automatic print. Corner. And since I have black, which is auto formatter, basically Pepe, but Facebook and stuff uses it, so you know, be fancy. That. Once it installs black, then whenever I do my shift+enter, my idea to run, it should format the code. Just want code. Open VS Code one more time. All right, looks pretty good to me. That's what I do for my default settings. I'll include those in the description for myself. And that's everything, I think. So have